everyone! Thank you for joining me for STEAM Mondays. Today we are going to be doing a float boat challenge. So you're going to need to collect a few supplies before we get started. You're going to need some aluminum foil or tin foil. You only need about a 12-inch square. You're going to need something heavy. So I have some rocks from outside, but you could use loose change or Legos or marbles, anything that is heavy that could help us test the buoyancy of your boat. You will need a bucket, or I have a little bin right here, and you're going to put some water in there, about 4 inches of water. So if you have a big bowl in your kitchen, you could use that too. Or if you don't have any of those things, you could just fill the kitchen sink. And then if you want to decorate your float boat, you can make flags for it. So I have toothpicks here and some construction paper and a Sharpie. So go collect some supplies and then we can get started. Before we get started with our float boat challenge, I want to learn a couple of science words. The first one is buoyancy. What buoyancy means is something's ability to float on water. So when we're making and designing our boats, you're going to want to think about how much weight can you put on to the surface of the water while keeping the boat floating. Now that we know what the word buoyancy means, you should be thinking about that when you design your boat. So what are people who design things called? Does anyone know? Yeah, they're engineers. So you're going to be engineering your own boat. But we have a couple of rules to engineer your boat when we get started. And the first is, when you're using your tin foil, you can only use a 12-inch piece. So that's about the size of a ruler. So if you have a ruler, you can use that, or you can kind of just eyeball it. That's about 12 inches. So you can only use a 12-inch piece of tin foil for your project. The next thing you're going to want to consider when making your float boat is, what shape are you going to make your boat? Are you going to make it look like a sailboat? Do you want it to look more like a raft, which is a bunch of pieces of wood that are tied together and it's usually a rectangle? Are you going to try and make a circle? Does the shape of your boat affect how well it's going to float? So the fun part about this project is you can do it more than once. So you at home could design 2 or 3 boats and see which one works the best. Okay, so I've decided that I want to try and make my boat in the shape of a diamond. So I'm going to do that right now, and then we can test it out. For my float boat challenge, I made 2 different boats. I made them out of the same amount of tinfoil, so about that 12-inch square, but they are very different, as you can tell. They're both diamond or square shaped, and they both have a flag that says Reed in there, but one of them is a lot bigger. So I am really gonna find out now if the area affects the buoyancy of my boat. So let's do some testing. Okay, so I have both of my boats here, and I'm going to put them both in the water, and this is the first test. All right, good news. They are both floating, but now I'm going to start adding the weight. This is where it would be helpful at home if you have a uniformly weighted thing like Legos or marbles, but I didn't have any of those on hand, so I'm using rocks. So I'm going to just try and pick 2 rocks that are about the same weight and see how my 2 boats do. All right, so my big guy, he's still floating. And then I got my little guy. All right, so that boat kind of sunk a little bit. So my smaller boat sunk a little, but it's still floating. Let's add some more weight and see what happens. Okay, these 2 are about the same. So in my big boat, seems to be doing pretty good. Let's add it to my little guy. So what I learned from this experiment so far is that the bigger area of my boat is holding the weight better, so that buoyant force is in play here. But now I want to see how much my big boat will actually hold, so I'm just going to keep adding rocks. Uh-oh. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rocks in this one so far. And you notice how I have to keep adding them to keep it equal, or the boat might tip. If I put all of my rocks on one side, it's gonna flip. So I have to be careful. But as you can see, it's starting to sink down a little bit just from this weight. I don't know how many more I can add. Oh, it might be taking on some water. Ah! That's not too bad though. Look at how many rocks are in there. Thank you so much for joining me for Steam Monday. I had a lot of fun in our float boat challenge. I would love to see what you made at home, so please post pictures or videos in the comments below. If you haven't already, please join our Facebook group. It's SCPL Youth and Families, and that is our Facebook group, so join that. And then also, parents, keep in mind that this activity is great for almost all ages. So you could really design a crazy boat if you change the parameters a little bit, or if you have siblings at home, it could be a fun competition who can design the best boat. So again, please post pictures, and I will see you all next week.